We have time for one more question. These candidates need to...
I'd like to ask that one more question.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to get recognized for a question.
You've all talked about jobs, what you're going to do for jobs. But anybody like me who's ever built businesses in this state hits a wall when they get to Augusta. And there's three letters that absolutely drive me crazy. So I'd like to have some response from you folks, because if none of you understand this word and how to get by it, then none of you should be running for governor. And that's the Department of Environmental Protection. Anybody that's ever tried to build a project in this state, they must have their head examined. I used to have hair when I first started 40 years ago in this state to do a project. And if I ever put my money at risk to do another project, I'll get a wig. So what I'd like to know is which one of these candidates, and you can each have a minute or so, or whatever, what would you do to speed this process in the DEP? Because anybody moving to this state runs into that firewall up there and they say, thanks, but no thanks.
Two things. I put a bill in that's now passed. It's the House and the Senate. I'm hoping the governor will sign it. It's designed to make use of some of the pension system money, the retirement money. We have $10 billion on deposit here in Maine. It's public money. We're going to be using that money, a small portion of it, to leverage the creation of venture capital to ensure that small businesses have a chance to become middle-sized and big businesses. In the Department of Environmental Protection, the problem we're dealing with is that the legislature as a whole, not us Republicans, the legislature as a whole, the Democratic majority, likes to pass laws that are almost deliberately vague, delegate the authority to write the rules to the bureaucrats, to the departments. The departments themselves oftentimes write vague and uncertain rules, because the environmental community, quite frankly, thrives on it. That means that every time there's a project applied for, every time there's an application filed with the DEP or with water or with anything else, everything is livable because it's unclear. As one of my friends who tried to do a development said to me, I didn't mind so much when they turned it down, I wish they turned me down $1 million earlier. So, a Republican governor, and we have to go back 20 years to find anybody who had that kind of mindset, has the power to hire and fire these people who write the rules and can insist that there be clarity. And if there is clarity, business will come back.
Anti-business activists have told me that they don't have to win a single lawsuit, a single referendum, win anything. All they need to do is to create uncertainty and delay. My primary focus would be to have stiff, good regulations, but to do everything humanly possible to eliminate uncertainty, risk, and delay.
The answer comes from leadership. It's leadership of who you bring with you to Augusta, and it's also the leadership to take on the network of issue entrepreneurs that have grown up around the environmental movement in Augusta. That's equally as important. One other thing, DEP are 3 letters to look out for. Work, I think, represents 4 other letters that you should consider as well.
The short answer is I agree with Steve. It's going to take leadership. I'll just give you a personal anecdote. When I ran the St. Lawrence and Atlantic, I was federally mandated by 2 federal governments that I must kill the weeds along my right-of-way so I can inspect the tracks. We had to apply herbicides to do that. In Maine, it was every year it was a different process. New Hampshire, they didn't care where I sprayed. Vermont, they banned spraying. In Quebec, I don't know, for sure I know it was different. The point is that a small business like we were 40 people when I took over the railroad, having to deal with all those different regulators. I have a personal pain that I still carry with me about what that was like and how scary it was when the regulator came to shut my business down. That won't happen in my administration.
The left knuckle on my, first knuckle on my left hand
was broken in 1977 when I punched a concrete wall after a DEP hearing where they denied my first permit as I was building Sunday River. I just finished a 48-month process of a vernal pool that Bill spoke about that stopped the project because the Army Corps of Engineers and the DEP couldn't agree. I had a resident from Massachusetts move into a camp that wasn't suitable to live in the town of Riley, so he gave me the one vote to stop the construction of the Jordan Grand Hotel at Jordan Bowl. I've lived it, I'm sick of it, and I can guarantee you that I will change it.
Your question, sir, is exactly why our next governor needs to come from the private sector. One of the companies that I run is a housing construction company in the Mid-Coast area. We have a terrific project down in Pittsburgh. I negotiated for 2.5 years with the DEP and 3 other state agencies. My project was stopped and delayed for 1.5 years because they found some salamanders and some frogs in a man-made pond. We had to re-engineer 80% of the project. I was told directly that they didn't care about the time frame or the cost. That was my problem. That is one of the reasons why Maine is so complicated a place to do business and why we have such a difficult time having folks invest in this state and create jobs. As governor, I understand that issue. I have lived with that issue. I'm very aware of it. It's a very good question.
In Maine, and I share your frustration. 1992, I was running a power plant in eastern Maine for a bank out of New York. There was financial trouble. The DEP came in and made me do a buffalo census in the state of Maine. Cost $54,000. Took us 3 months, June, July, and August. And damn it, I found a buffalo at Decatur City. To add insult to injury, we lost that construction season, so the next spring they came in and they made me count black flies. It wasn't enough that I had to count them, I had to identify the species. I'm glad to tell you, we have 16 species of black flies in the state of Maine. Now, I will tell you 3 problems, state of Maine, and how we get regulation under control. One of them is right here. You take your Constitution and you enforce it. Number 2, any bill that comes out of the legislature better be in full detail. The devil's in the detail. Our legislator passes summary bills, send it to the agency to write the rules. Now let me ask you, would you write yourself out of a job? So they write themselves into a job, and they delay. Thirdly, any bill that comes out of my legislature, when I'm governor, I would sign it, have 2 regulations on the bottom being repealed. And I'm serious. Anything I sign is going to have 2 repeals on every bill we pass in the regulatory department.